Hey guys, what's up? Today I am with a very special guest. Her name is Sandy. She's from Malaysia and she's actually married to a Japanese guy. And I thought, why not interview them and especially talk to her about her cultural shocks or, when they were dating or even after getting married. What are the cultural differences that they go through, arguments that they have, and how did she adjust to, Japanese lifestyle? So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Hi, my name is Sandy. I live in Japan for almost 5 years and still continue living here then.
All right. So the first question that all these people ask is, how did you meet your boyfriend back then and then husband now?
We used to be classmates together and this is how I met him, and we are on long distance relationship for almost 1 year plus. Then after that we got married, then I moved here.
Because you were living far, right? How did you make it work? What was your secret?
We actually both try our best to talk to each other every day. But it's actually quite difficult, honestly speaking. So we will take initiative to visit each other. Finally, we decided, let's get married. So make things easier.
What was the most frustrating part when you were doing this distance relationship thing?
I feel lonely sometimes when there's a time that when you go back to your house and you feel empty because no one there to talk to you. Yes, you have friends and you have your daily life and daily things to do, but once you're back at home, you feel empty. Especially when you have weekends, it's you cannot ask all your friends come and join you all the time, but you felt like you miss certain personal touch, personal someone to just care or hug you.
Sure. What are the main big differences that you see in Japanese culture and Malaysian culture when it comes to dating or marriage in general,
Guys in Japan, they're more towards themselves. They keep to themselves. Generally, they don't really express themselves very much. So it's you only see they express themselves by action.
All right, okay.
But compared to Malaysia, I think the guys are more expressive.
For you, coming from Malaysia and moving to Japan and getting married to a Japanese guy, what were the things you expected, but they were totally different? You were like, what is this?
It's just a daily life that people are doing. For example, because you see the women here, they actually dress up very well. They early morning they will wake up and they put on makeup and they just make sure everything is perfect. But back then when we used to date, I don't put on makeup, I don't wake up to make breakfast. We said, let's go and eat breakfast, let's go for a movie, let's do everything outside.
Okay. So for you, in your case and your husband's case, what are the main, I would say 3 or 4 or even 1 biggest arguments or things that it's hard for both of you to adjust because you are so used to your own culture or the background, and then your husband has his own way of upbringing from his parents. What are the things that are very hard to adjust and it took time for you to come to that point where you could compromise? What were those?
I think it's based on the person's, from example, my husband, he doesn't express himself that much. That's why I don't really get what he thinks all the time.
Okay.
So that's just one of the problem we are working on it. Because I grew up, I'm quite expressive. I always express myself, but he tends not to. And he's a very type of quiet and mild type. He doesn't have temper. He doesn't get angry. So it's that difficult for me to try to grasp what he tried to show.
Marriage is a very a next level. It's not that simple, just get married. What was that attractive aspect of his life that just was so charming for you that you were I need to marry this guy? What was that?
I think he accept me for who I am.
His parents, was it hard to accept he's marrying somebody who's from another country?
No, I think his family was very acceptable. I think they very welcoming type of parents. Like people used to make jokes. It's like, like back in the history or the olden days that Chinese don't marry Japanese because they kill a lot of Chinese though. Then before I come here, like people tell me, "Are you sure you're gonna marry a Japanese?" Like they were like torture their wife or something like that. I think it's much more on my side rather than his side.
As you said, like not from his side, but your family. What are the things like, still you feel like, your family, if you're not your parents, like they still find it hard to accept your husband, of course they don't say directly, but then you can still feel because he's Japanese. So what are those things?
I think in their mindset, maybe the Japanese guy will beat their wife or something. I have no idea, but I think this is the image that people have for maybe Japanese guy. I'm not sure.
But like living in Japan now, what is your personal like experience? Like, do you think like all Japanese men are like that, what they portray, or it's like it's just a myth?
I think it's depending on the person. Like I know my husband wouldn't beat me. Usually my friend will make friends and you're the one who will beat him up.
Just as a Malaysian moving to Japan, what were the difficulties that you faced in the beginning adjusting and you still kind of struggle with?
I think there is a few. The first thing I'm gonna highlight, because it's like when you're Malaysian, you're Chinese. Sometimes people will assume that you're from China. It's not that they don't like China people things, but sometimes they heard rumors about how China people react. So sometimes they will keep themselves a distant from you. So sometimes like they heard news like, oh, China people come here, then they're being rude, and people will like look at you and say, oh, because you're Chinese and you must from China. So maybe they will have a distance when they look at you.
Do you still find it, because now you can speak Japanese and of course you've been living here for 4 years now, do you still find hard to like hang out with other Japanese mothers, because you yourself have a daughter? Is it hard to have that connection, because if you're in Malaysia you might have like mothers going out with their kids, because they have their own club or something. So do you find it hard to like, have that close connection where you can really pour out your heart with other mothers, like Japanese mothers?
Yes, I do. Even though not just like making friends with moms, but even though just to have a normal friends like Japanese is also difficult. One thing, like you can speak Japanese, it's okay, but do you know how to speak to them? What is the topic to talk to them?
Now, since you are here in Japan, married to a Japanese guy, of course there are some pros and cons, right, of anything. Like, living in Malaysia, there must be some good points, but then there are things that you wish from other countries, we have in our country. Same, I think, in Japan also. Being married, what are the good things? You feel like, oh, I wish people in Malaysia could also practice those things when they're married, or just in general as a culture? What could be that?
Firstly, what I enjoy most living in Japan, because number one, I feel safe. You don't feel threatened like every day, like even though where you put your bags or you forgot to lock your door, everything, you still feel safe. So safetyness is one thing that I can't get it from my country. Because back in my country, like I've been robbed, someone pickpocket, and someone just break into my house. So I have that fear feeling. But when I come here, I feel safe. Then cleanliness, yes, here is like very clean. So yeah, it's fantastic. You feel safe like whatever you're eating.
What are the things you wish from Malaysia if you have here in Japan?
The conveniences, like things that which is convenient. Like I hope I can just like walk out from the place, then I can just go down and eat.
Okay. In the end, let me ask you, like, let's suppose if there's a girl or a guy who is planning to marry somebody who's Japanese, what kind of advice from your experience you would like to give them? Like, oh, I did not know that before, I wish I knew that, so you would like to tell them, what would that be?
I think it's very it sounded simple, but it's very difficult, to be honest. It's like, how much could you sacrifice for that person? you need to think about it. If you really like leave everything behind, including your friends, your family, and your career, and imagine if you come here, you start off with nothing. And if things doesn't work well, will you just want to leave everything behind and go back to your place and start all over again? If you can have answer for this, even though me myself every day I try to come up with answer for it, that's also something that you need to think of.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video today. And as I was asking Sandy about, advice for people who are planning to get married to somebody who's Japanese, and there were two questions that she rose. She asked, before you get married, think of these two things. Number one, are you willing to sacrifice for this person, leave your country, family, friends, and move to this person's country and start all over again? And question number two that she asked was what if things do not work out? Are you willing to go back to your country and start all over again? Please do let me know what you guys think about it. Please do let me know your comments in the comment section below. And please do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, smile.